Edmonton Public School Board policy on sexual orientation and gender identity. The Constitution Act states that all individuals are considered to be equal regardless of many determinants, including sex. The Canadian Human Rights Act was amended to include discrimination due to sexual orientation as prohibited. The Alberta Human Rights Act has changed to include gender, gender identity, and gender expression as discriminatory determinants. As generations become more accepting, policies need to progress to create inclusive and safe environments. The EPS Board of Trustees is trying to do just that. The policy on sexual orientation and gender identity was issued with the aim of supporting SGM students, staff, and families by creating and maintaining a welcoming environment conducive to learning and working. The board holds true that all SGM students, staff, and faculty have many rights, including the right to be treated fairly, equitably, and with dignity and respect. To support this, the board is committed to implementing measures including defining appropriate expectations, behaviors, language, and action.
Although the policy is a good start, we think it will fall short of solving the problems faced by the LGBTQ+ students and school community members. The policy is meant to eliminate discrimination and provide inclusivity, but does not implement enough proactive measures to prevent exclusion and homophobia. Because this is a new policy enacted in mid-2018, we don't have literature supporting the effectiveness of the measures this policy has taken and the impact it has had on the LGBTQ+ community in Edmonton Public Schools. EPS has identified homophobic and transphobic experiences in schools and a lack of knowledge and resources as gaps in public school education. In comparable gender and sexual identity policies, when teachers are provided with education regarding exclusion and targeted bullying, research shows that access to resources helps teachers feel prepared to address LGBTQ+ issues in their schools, and that teachers who utilize these materials reported feeling more prepared to discuss homophobia than teachers who did not. For example, in Toronto, teachers have access to anti-homophobia curriculum material.
Although educating teachers can help prepare them to deal with instances of homophobia, transphobia, and bullying, research suggests that children may have preconceived notions of sexuality and gender based on their parents' views. Mothers' and fathers' behaviors were often predictors of children's gender role attitudes and played unique roles in their sons' and daughters' acquisitions of knowledge about gender stereotypes. This may prevent a policy such as that implemented by EPS from sufficiently addressing the source of gender and sexuality, target bullying within their school district.
Sexuality and gender-targeted bullying may also be inadvertently perpetuated by teachers and school staff. Because educators feel reluctant to address instances of homophobia and targeted bullying, heterosexism and LGBTQ+ stigmas continue to exist in Canadian schools.
This policy largely impacts the LGBTQ+ students, staff, and families. The impact of this policy is created by promoting inclusivity and understanding surrounding LGBTQ+ students, including providing professional development opportunities for teachers and promoting inclusive language use in classrooms. Age-related groups most impacted by this policy are children and youth, as they are members of the school communities. They will have to adopt more inclusive education, practices, and languages. Their belief and identity are directly influenced by this policy. School staff is another group heavily impacted by this policy. It affects their role as teachers and future curriculums, language, teaching practice, and beliefs surrounding sexuality and gender.
Future registered nurse, do you think we should support this policy?
I think we should. One of the 7 primary values of the CNA's Code of Ethics is promoting justice. We do not discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. We also advocate for equity and fairness for all. However, this policy seems to be a first step in achieving true inclusivity for the LGBTQ+ group. Do you have any recommendations on how they can further improve this policy?
In the implementation portion of this policy, there are no SMART goals. Some further actions they could take are avoiding sexist language and providing sexual education that is comprehensive and acknowledges diverse needs. A constant reference to gender reinforces the rigid idea of separate categories. A class could be referred to with non-gender terms like everyone, students, or kids. When it comes to staff, the use of first names of staff would solve the problem of finding gender-neutral titles, instead of the use of gender-binary terms such as Mr., Mrs., and Miss. Gender-variant students often feel isolated. Safe spaces should be created in the school where gender-variant youth can find the sense of support and community. Communicate gender equality practices through newsletters, school website, letters home, and social media.
In conclusion, this policy is a good step towards equity for gender-variant youth in the Edmonton public school system. We hope in the future to see further improvement in creating inclusivity for the LGBTQ+ community.